Hey, it's Dr. Erica with Rosie Research, and I am so excited to be bringing a new paper circuit for Thanksgiving to you. And this is our turkey circuit project. So what you'll need to make this little guy is our printout that we have online, some markers if you're going to color it. You'll need scissors because we're going to cut it out, a hole punch for your LED, which you can always do with your scissors if you need to. You'll need an LED and a battery, and you're going to want to check that they work together. So you want to double check that. You'll need plain Scotch tape and some copper tape, which is going to act as our wires. So let's get started. The instructions tell you the first part is to color the parts of your turkey that you want to color. And what I love about this project is you could actually use it as a place for table names. So I'm going to color this guy really fast with some cute little eyes and a name. And you should spend lots of time on this part. All right, I have it colored in a little bit, but I know you can do better than that. And then our next step is to cut out both of the pieces. So I am super excited this year for Thanksgiving because my sister just had a baby. So I'm really excited to make one of these for her. She's 3 months old now, so I feel like she's just at the right age where she will love watching rainbow flashing lights. So I'm kind of excited to make these for her for Thanksgiving. We normally go to her house for Thanksgiving, but instead we're going to go to my brother's house this year because she just had a baby. And that's really hard to have Thanksgiving and a baby. But we also have lots of fun Thanksgiving science projects from last year that are online that you guys should definitely check out. One of the ones I love for my little preschooler hands is the dancing corn activity. And it's really fun if you do both popcorn kernels with dancing corn, regular corn kernels with dancing corn, and frozen corn kernels, because then you can kind of see the difference, or maybe they're the same. I don't know, it'd be kind of peculiar to check that out. So that's always a really fun one for little hands. And we did pumpkin pie DNA last year. It is shockingly easy to extract DNA. And you can get it from just the pumpkin pie pack that we always use, which is really cool. And it actually won a Nobel Prize. So then you can be doing Nobel Prize science with your Thanksgiving dinner. So those are some options you can do after you finish this fun turkey circuit project. All right, so I have my two pieces cut out, and now I need to wire it. So I can set this little guy aside for the moment. And it tells me to add some wire on the short leg. So the one that is outlined in black, that is going to be, and it's going to go all the way into this green circle. So that will end up being underneath the battery. And it's really important we do this in one piece of copper tape. If you rip the copper tape partway down, then you're going to want to take up that copper tape and put a whole new piece down. Because what happens if we have a rip in our copper tape right there is the electrons, as they're trying to move through the circuit, actually see like a dead end to the street and a whole bunch of goo above them and then a new highway to go on. And it's really hard for them to get up through that gluey goo. So you want to get it through, laid down in just one piece. Otherwise you might have a little more trouble with your circuit later. Alrighty. And then my next step is to put down my CR2032 battery. I'm going to put it down so I can see the letters. They're going to face up towards me. So the positive side will be up, and the negative side, which sort of has like usually a nice like bubbly texture, is going to be face down on top of the wire we just laid down. And then I'm going to secure that in place with a couple little pieces of Scotch tape. Now I don't want to tape straight over the battery because I need to make contact with the top of that battery to complete my circuit. So I'm going to tape on the sides of it. And you don't have to worry about this tape being seen later, as long as you tape inside this little shadowed piece, because that shadowed piece is the same size as this little guy who's going to cover our circuit later. I like to put it about 2 pieces of copper tape in there. And so now that my battery is in, now it's going to tell me to put in 2 pieces of copper tape on this red, and there's a little gap in here on the red line. That gap is going to be your switch if you want to be able to turn it off and on. Even if you want a constant on state like I have on this little turkey, I actually suggest keeping that gap in there so you can turn it off later after dinner. So you're going to take 2 pieces of copper tape, and again, you need to lay down each of those pieces in a single go. So I'm going to cover from here down, and the nice thing with copper tape is you don't even need scissors to cut it. You can just use your nails or pull. And then when I lay down the copper tape on the battery, I'm going to do something tricky. So I talked earlier about how it's hard for those electrons to go up through that gooey glue of the copper tape. So what I'm going to do when I attach it to the battery is I'm actually going to fold over a piece of the copper tape, just like that, so that there's copper tape with no glue on the very end of it. And that's going to be the part that touches the top of my battery. And then I will go down. Yep. I'm going to rip that there. And so I have a nice little tiny gap on it, so that when I want to turn my little guy off, I can. So now the next piece is our LED. And you'll notice that there on your diagram, there's a short leg and a long leg. And if you look at your LEDs, there's a short leg and a long leg. So the long leg always goes to the cathode, or the positive part of your battery, and then the short leg always goes to the bottom, the negative part of your battery, the anode. So what I like to do is I like to make these guys do the splits first. So I pull each leg out, straight out, and then I bend them along the copper tape so that the legs will go along that copper tape a little bit. Just kind of handy to get a little bit of a better connection. And once I'm happy with where they're at, I'm going to put 2 pieces of Scotch tape, one on top of each leg to hold it in place. And again, you don't need to worry about that tape showing because we're going to have that nice little guy covering it up at the end. I'm going to put 2 little pieces of copper tape down. And now comes the time to test it. So before you go any further, you want to test it. And the way we can test it is by closing our circuit. So right now we have electrons that can come off the top of the battery and go through this wire, but there's a gap there, so they can't do anything. If we close that gap, then they can go through this other wire into the leg of the LED, through the LED, which makes them shout, hooray, and light up. And then it goes through the short leg, down this other piece of copper tape, and into the bottom of the battery. So we have a full circle of stuff going. So the way that you can check it is you can just take a piece of copper tape, you can leave the back on, and you're going to close this gap right here. Just like that. Now, if it doesn't light up for you, there's a couple things that could be the problem. One thing is, maybe you did accidentally have a rip in that copper tape, and it can't get through there. Another thing is, maybe you're bending this funny, and if one of the legs comes off the copper tape, it won't work. LEDs also are one-way streets, so if you have your short leg on this side and your long leg over here, then it's not going to work because your battery will be flipped. Or maybe your battery is flipped and you can't see the letters. Those are a couple of the most common problems you'll have in your circuit. Now, if you want a pressable switch, what you're going to do is we'll end up putting some tape on the back of this guy. If you want it to be always on, where you can turn it off later, all you got to do is take a piece of tape and tape this extra piece of copper tape in, which is really handy. All right, so now if you wanted to make another switch that it presses on and off, we can do that now. So you'll notice on the picture it shows us where that switch is. So I'm just going to cover the back side of this little guy with copper tape. And that is so that when I press on it, I'll have copper tape that is covering that switch area just like what we had just done. So I'm going to put in just some strips. Now this one is not as important that it's all one piece, because what will happen is it's just the copper. There's no glue that will happen between it. The gluey side is going to be stuck to our little turkey. And there's not much you need to worry about on this part of it, as long as you don't go too crazy and put copper tape all over your turkey. Because if we accidentally touch the positive and the negative sides, or the long and the short leg wires, then we aren't going to have a working circuit, because the electrons will say, do I really need to do all that work to climb up the slide and go down the slide and say hooray, or do I just go the fast route? And they always choose the fast route. So I have a little hole that I punched inside of the turkey's hat. It goes right along sort of this little brim piece, and my hole punch is tiny. I just open it up with a pair of scissors so that it can get big enough for me to push that LED through. So I got a nice little hole there, and I'm going to push the LED through here. And you'll notice then when I press, I can find a spot where I press and it will be pressed on. So if you want an on-off guy like that, you can do it just like that. Or again, if you change your mind, you say, ooh man, I really liked it all the way on all the time. You can do that by taking a piece of copper tape and Scotch tape to the back. So you don't even have to take the backing off the copper tape. And then covering your switch area with that little piece there, and you've got your project. So I wrote my name so that I could put this maybe at my table spot, and it would be Dr. Erica's table spot. Probably would put Mom on it. I don't think my kids call me Dr. Erica. But then I could have a table spot for everybody, and everybody could decorate their own, which would be really fun. If you have really little hands, they could decorate it, and you could lay down the copper tape and the LEDs for them. But once they get into probably kindergarten to second grade, they're totally capable of learning how to lay down that copper tape and make these circuits work, which is a really empowering experience for them. Thank you so much for joining me for our new Turkey Circuit Thanksgiving project. I can't wait to see some of the pictures of you guys doing it. Again, you can find the downloads online at either rosieresearch.com or on our Teachers Pay Teachers channel. Thanks so much for watching, and have a great meal.